Oh, you want a messy drama with full updates and all the comments? Get this one. My stepdaughter was found stealing my jewelry and selling it on eBay. I found her username and all the listings of the stuff of my jewelry that's been disappearing. I tell her father, my husband, and he takes her side, saying she's a grieving 19-year-old who just lost her real mom, and I need to be more understanding. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the fact that she stole my stuff and sold it on eBay, and I'm supposed to be the one that's in the wrong? Well, you know what? I'm going to divorce him if he chooses her one more time, and to be honest, I've been eyeing his brother. So I'm Laurel. I've been, was married to Mark for 5 years. Mark has a daughter, Monica, from his previous marriage. His ex-wife passed away from breast cancer when Monica was about 12. So it's just been the two of them against the world for as long as I can remember before I came into the picture. I always knew their bond was special. Honestly, I never wanted to come between them. I just wanted to be a part of their family. Everything seemed fine, you know? We had our ups and downs like any blended family, but I thought that we were making it work. Monica moved in with us after her first semester of college because the dorms were too noisy. She could not focus on her study. Mark was over the moon to have her back at home. I tried to be supportive enough, even if it meant converting my home office back into her bedroom. Whatever, family first. It all started about 7 months ago. I was getting ready for this dinner with some colleagues from the hospital where I work at as a pediatric nurse. I wanted to wear these pearl earrings my grandmother gave me before she passed. They weren't even that valuable money-wise, but they were the last thing that she gave me before dementia took her memory. I always kept them in this little velvet pouch in my jewelry box, but when I went to put them on, they were gone. I turned my jewelry box upside down looking for them, and I even dumped out the entire contents onto our bed, thinking maybe the pouch had gone stuck somewhere or fallen into another compartment entirely. Nothing. I was already running late, so I had to let it go for the moment. I figured I must have misplaced them somehow. The next day was Saturday, and I spent the entire morning reorganizing my closet, convinced that I must have put the earring somewhere safe and then forgotten. You know how that goes. You hide something so well you can't find it yourself. Well, I found old receipts from restaurants that don't even exist anymore. Birthday cards from college friends I've lost touch with. Even my high school retainer. Gross. But no pearl earrings. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but it was bothering me. At Sunday brunch, I mentioned the missing earrings to Mark. He barely looked up from his phone and said, "You're always losing things, babe. Remember when you thought someone stole your car keys and they were in the freezer?" He chuckled to himself, and Monica joined him with this little smirk, like it was some private joke between them. For the record, the car keys in the freezer happened once 3 years ago, and I was working 60-hour weeks during COVID and basically sleepwalking through life. But somehow it became this defining character trait that Mark lied to bring up whenever I couldn't find something. I let it go. Life goes on. Then about 2 weeks later, I noticed my sapphire bracelet was gone. It was the gift Mark gave me for our 5th anniversary, and the clasp had been loose lately. I figured it must have fallen off somewhere, maybe at work or in the grocery store parking lot. I was upset, but then all these things happen, right? I don't know, the more pieces start disappearing. A silver pendant my sister gave me for my 30th birthday. A pair of diamond studs that were not even that expensive, but I wore all the time. My mother's silver locket with our family photos inside. It was never anything major all at once, just small pieces vanishing over the months. Just enough to make me question my sanity, honestly. Was I really this forgetful? Was I losing my mind? I started keeping a list in my phone of what was missing. I felt crazy doing it, like I was turning into some paranoid weirdo. Well, all this just keeps going because the list is growing. Then came it rainy Tuesday in April. I had to call in sick with a migraine that was making me see spots. I was lying in our darkened bedroom with a cold washcloth over my eyes when I overheard Monica on her phone in the hallway. She was talking to someone, probably her friend Zoe, about a good haul and a 5-star rating. I didn't think much of it at the time. She was always buying and selling crap online. Vintage clothing, used textbooks, whatever. Typical broke college kid stuff. Later that evening, I went to take some more Excedrin and noticed a crumpled piece of paper in the bathroom trash. I don't know why I went for it. Maybe a sixth sense was kicking in, I don't know, but it was an eBay shipping label with Monica's name on it. The date on it was the same day my mother's locket went missing. Something clicked in my brain right there, the missing jewelry. Monica's new clothing, the AirPods that she could not afford possibly at her part-time Moe's Southwest Grill salary. Her constant comments about how I, quote, never wore certain pieces anymore. That night, after Mark fell asleep, snoring, obviously, like a chainsaw, I created a fake eBay account and started searching for jewelry similar to my missing pieces. My hands were shaking. I could barely type. And there they were. Multiple listings for jewelry that looked exactly like mine, and the photos were taken on what was unmistakably Monica's distinctive purple-gray bedspread. The one I helped her pick out when we redecorated her room last year. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might throw up. There were my grandmother's pearl earrings listed as vintage pearl studs, real gems, family heirloom quality. They had sold 3 weeks earlier for $175. 3 people bid on them. 3 strangers now owned a piece of my grandmother? I don't know how long I sat there staring at the screen. An hour? 2? The house was completely silent except for Mark snoring. He sounds like Snorlax. And the sound of rain against the windows. I felt like I was floating outside my body, watching myself discover this betrayal in slow motion. The next morning, I waited until Mark left for work before confronting Monica. I had screenshots of everything, the listing, her seller profile, the dates that matched when my pieces went missing. My hands were shaking as I showed her my phone. This digital evidence of her betrayal spread about between us on the kitchen island, where we were sharing so many family meals. At first, Monica denied it, said it was just a coincidence, that lots of people have jewelry like that I was crazy for accusing her. But when I showed her the shipping label I found, something shifted in her face. She burst out in tears, saying she had just borrowed the jewelry from prom photos and must have misplaced them afterward. It was such an obvious lie. Who borrows a dozen different pieces over several months for a prom photo? The listings are right here, Monica. I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the hurricane in my chest. You sold my grandmother's earrings. You sold the bracelet your father gave me, and these are not just things, they're memories. They're irreplaceable. And that's when the tears stopped abruptly, like somebody had turned off a faucet. Her face hardened into something I've never seen before, and she said they're just things. Things you barely wear. You have so much and I have nothing. Then she stormed out of the house, slamming the door so hard that the hallway mirror, the one Mark and I bought on our honeymoon in Savannah, it cracked right down the middle. I sat there at the kitchen island for what felt like hours, staring at the cracked mirror. It seemed fitting somehow, Mark was on a 3-day business trip to the A. I spent the entire day rehearsing what I would say to him when he got home. I made a tea that grew cold because I was waiting until 2 a.m. for his flight to get back from Atlanta. When he finally walked through the door, he smelled like airport exhaustion. I could tell he just wanted to shower and sleep, but this cannot wait. With shaking hands, I showed him the eBay listing, the shipping label, the screenshots of my jewelry being sold to strangers across the country. I expected shock, anger, disappointment in Monica, but what I got instead was nothing. His face went completely blank, then hardened into an expression I've never seen before. Not directed at me anyways. He said, "Are you seriously accusing my baby of stealing from you?" His voice was dangerously quiet. "I'm not accusing her, Mark. She did it. She admitted it." Well, sort of. She tried to lie about it first, but the evidence is here. I pointed at my phone, this stupid piece of technology that had just blown up my life. And that's when it started. The fight that would end our marriage. Mark accused me of setting Monica up, of being jealous of his relationship with his daughter, of always trying to find faults with Monica since she moved in after college. He said I was being materialistic about just things, when I should be more concerned about Monica's feelings. "You don't understand what it's like to raise a child alone." He shouted, pacing our bedroom at 3 a.m. while I sat frozen on the edge of the bed. Monica had it rough after her mom died. She's still figuring things out, you know. She's 19, not 9. Is what I said with my voice breaking, and this isn't about her losing her mom. This is about her cold heart stealing from me repeatedly and selling family heirlooms online like they're nothing. The argument escalated until I could barely breathe through my tears. I felt like I was screaming into a void. Mark could not or would not hear me. It was like Monica had some kind of force field around her that deflected all criticism, all accountability. Around 4 a.m., Mark started packing a suitcase and a spin-a-night bag. I need some space to think, he said, not looking at me. I'm going to stay with Monica at her apartment for a few days. I watched him pack in silence, too numb to argue. As he zipped up his suitcase, I asked the question that's been burning in my throat. If it had been my daughter stealing from you, would you be this understanding? He didn't answer, he just grabbed his bag and left. So, the next 3 days, it was nothing more than a blur. I called in sick again. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I existed in this fog of shock and betrayal, moving through our house like a ghost. I ate dry cereal straight from the box, standing at the kitchen counter at odd hours of the night. I kept checking my phone, waiting for Mark to call to say that he'd thought about it and realized how wrong Monica was, how hurt I must be. The call never came. Mark returned only back to pack more clothing. He told me that Monica had admitted to borrowing some of my jewelry, but instead she was going to return everything. That I had overreacted and embarrassed her with my accusation, that she was going through a hard time at school, and I should be more understanding. I felt like I was losing my mind. How was I the crazy one here? Was I overreacting about having my personal belongings stolen and sold on eBay? I started doubting myself, wondering if maybe I had somewhere brought this on myself. Maybe I had not been warm enough to Monica. Maybe I had flaunted my jewelry somehow. Maybe. The gaslighting, by the way, is happening. And I didn't know the term then, but I sure as hell do now, thanks to my therapist. The final straw came a few days later. I decided to make Mark's favorite dinner. Meatloaf with roasted potatoes, and those green beans with the crispy onions. Some pathetic attempt at reconciliation, I guess. I took off my wedding ring while making the meatloaf because I always do. Ground beef under your wedding ring is gross. And I put it in this little ceramic dish by the kitchen sink. The one that says ring before you go. That my best friend got me as a joke gift. When I went out to put my ring back on after dinner, a dinner I ended up eating alone in front of the TV watching reruns of The Office. I loved that show. It was gone. My wedding ring from the dish by the sink where I had left it less than 2 hours ago. I tore the kitchen apart looking for it. It had not fallen behind the sink or rolled under the fridge. It wasn't in the garbage disposal. It wasn't anywhere. And that's when I knew. Monica had been in and out of our house while I was taking a shower before dinner. Mark had given her a key years ago, and we'd never asked for it back when she moved out. She must have came in, seen my ring, and just taken it. The one thing that symbolized my marriage to her dad. I don't know how to describe what happened in my brain at that moment. It was like a switch flipped, all the confusion, all the self-doubt, all the desperate needs to make things work, it all just evaporated. In its place was the perfect crystalline clarity. I changed all the locks the next morning, and I sent Mark a text that said, "I want a divorce." His response came 3 hours later that said, "You're being ridiculous, we can work this out." But I knew that we couldn't. Not when he had chosen his thieving daughter over our marriage. Not when he had made me question my own sanity rather than hold her accountable for her actions. 2 weeks later, I found myself sitting across from a divorce attorney, a kind older woman with silver hair who gently pushed a box of tissues toward me as I explained how my marriage had collapsed over stolen jewelry. When I got to the part about my missing wedding ring, she stopped taking notes and just looked at me for a long time. She said, "Honey, this isn't about jewelry. This is about respect and trust, and once those are gone, well..." She trailed off, but I understood what she meant. Once those are gone, there's nothing left to save. Mark moved all his belongings out while I was at work. I came home to half-empty closets and the lingering scent of his cologne in rooms that now echoed with his absence.
He left his key on the kitchen counter with a note that said, "When you're ready to talk like adults, call me." I threw the note away and poured myself a glass of wine. My sister convinced me to file a police report about the stolen jewelry, especially the wedding rings, and the officer who took my statement seemed bored and disinterested, saying it was likely a family matter that should be handled civilly, because apparently theft does not count when it's done by family. I left the police station feeling even more defeated. 3 months into the separation, I started therapy. I began redecorating the house, painting over the blue walls Mark had insisted on with warm golden tones that made me feel somehow safer. I adopted a rescue cat I named her Pearl, a small act of reclamation that made me smile every time that I called her name. Life was starting to find a new rhythm. A quieter, calmer rhythm without Mark's constant defense of Monica's increasingly erratic behavior. Did I mention she's been fired from 2 other jobs before getting the job at Moe's for inventory discrepancies? Yeah, Mark never thought that was worth mentioning to me. Oh, and then came the day that changed everything again. I was on my lunch break at the hospital, scrolling through Facebook while eating a sad desk salad, when I saw it. A shared post from the local Crime Watch group. Monica's mugshot alongside photos of stolen Moe's Southwest grill supplies. My fork froze midway to my mouth as I read the post. Get this! According to the post, Monica had been caught selling bottles of Moe's signature sauces in bulk on Facebook Marketplace, along with a vintage neon Moe's sign listed for, you guessed it, $2,000. The manager recognized his own store item while browsing the marketplace for his niece's gift. He was also looking for used restaurant equipment. He set up a sting operation pretending to be an interested buyer, and Monica was arrested when she showed up with a car trunk full of stolen merchandise. I felt this bizarre wave of emotions wash over me. Vindication, sadness, this strange relief that finally, someone else had caught her in the act. The comment section was full of locals making jokes about the sauce bandit, sign of the times. In any other context, I might have laughed too. I forwarded the post to my sister with just 3 words: I was not crazy. That evening, as I was reheating leftovers, Thai food, and watching Pearl chase a toy mouse across my newly refinished hardwood floor, my phone rang. It was Mark. For a moment, I considered not answering, but curiosity gets the cat. Hello. Have you seen? About Monica? I don't know what to do, Laurel. They're charging her with felonies and felony theft. She could go to prison. I should have felt something. Sympathy, maybe even, or satisfaction, but all I felt was numb. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. Can we meet somewhere to talk, please, about everything that happened? I think you owe me that much. Guys, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him for a cup of coffee the next day. Not at our favorite spot or anything, that would have been too painful, but at a neutral diner across town. I arrived early and chose a booth by the window, ordering a black coffee that I didn't really want but needed something to do with my hands. When Mark walked in, he looked terrible. He lost weight, dark circles, you name it. It spoke of sleepless nights. He slid into the booth across from me with a smile that faded when I didn't return the favor. Thanks for meeting with me. Laurel, I owe you an apology, a big one. Monica has a problem. She's been stealing things and selling them on the internet for 2 years. They found it all. Not just from you, from stores, from her job, from me. She has a growing addiction to online shopping and gambling that I didn't want to see. I've been enabling her, paying off her debts, making excuses for her behavior. When you confronted her about the jewelry, I could not face it. It was easier to blame you than to confront the truth about my own daughter, about my failure as a father. Rain started streaking the diner window as Mark talked. He told me how Monica had been stealing from her previous job too. How she racked up thousands of dollars worth of gambling debt on offshore betting sites. How she's been diagnosed with a shopping addiction that spiraled out of control, clearly. None of that excuses what she did, or what I did. I chose her over you, and I was wrong. I'm so sorry, Laurel. I've been lost without you. He reached across the table for my hand and he said, "Monica, finally getting the help she needs while awaiting trial. Her lawyer thinks that they can get her into a diversion program since it's her first official offense, and I've been going to therapy too," he said, trying to understand why I could not set boundaries with her. I let him talk, but I did not take his hand. Instead, I felt for the phantom weight of my missing wedding ring, the one I was certain Monica stole and sold, though it had never appeared on any of her listings. "Some broken things can be fixed," is what I told him. I sat quietly when he finally fell silent. What if I want to try to fix it? What if I want us to try again? I miss you. I miss our life together. And guys, with that, I picked up my purse, stood up and left, and I said, "I think it's too late for that, Mark." The rain stopped by the time I walked out the door. Pure symbolism. But the air smelled of wet asphalt and lost chances. As I was unlocking my door, my phone chimed with a text message. It was from Jake. See, Jake is Mark's younger brother. He said, "Hey, heard about Monica, just checking if you're okay. This must be bringing a lot to you." Jake and I had always been getting along good. He was the opposite of Mark, thoughtful, direct, not afraid to call Monica out on her crap, even when Mark wouldn't. The few times he came to visit us, he'd always bring these little gifts for me. A book he thought I would enjoy. Chocolate from his local shop he knew I would love. Once he even brought a vintage item that he found at an antique store that matched my eyes. "I'm okay," I texted back. "Thanks for checking in, it means a lot." And then he hit me with a "coffee sometime?" As friends, of course, no pressure. I stared at the message for a long time before typing, "I'd like that." 6 months after Monica's arrest, I quite literally ran into Jake at the farmer's market downtown. I was examining a bunch of heirloom tomatoes when someone bumped into me from behind and nearly sending me face first into the vegetable display. "Oh my God, I'm sorry. Laurel?" It was Jake, holding a paper cup of coffee in each hand, looking as surprised to see me as I was to see him. "Hey, Jake!" I felt myself blushing for some reason, suddenly very aware that I was wearing my oldest jeans and a faded Unk sweatshirt, my hair pulled back into a messy ponytail. "I was actually gonna call you. I got these coffees for, well, it doesn't matter. Would you like one? It's oat milk latte. I remember you like it." Well, I do like oat milk latte, but I didn't remember ever telling Jake that. "You remembered my coffee order?" He just shrugged and said he notices things. We ended up spending the entire afternoon together, just wandering about the stall to stall at the farmer's market, then driving out to the local winery to sample their new releases. We talked about everything except Mark and Monica, my job at the hospital, his new position, teaching history at the community college, books that we would read recently, our shared love of bad sci-fi movies. It was the most normal I'd felt in months, years maybe. After that day, Jake started bringing me coffee before my early shifts at the hospital, just showing up in the parking lot at 6 a.m. with oat milk latte and sometimes a pastry from his little bakery that opened at 5. "No big deal," he insisted. He was early riser anyways, and the baker was on his way to college. We started texting good night to each other, just simple messages at first like "sleep well," "good night," "hope tomorrow's good," but gradually evolved into longer conversations that sometimes stretched until the midnight. I knew I was developing feelings for him, but I felt conflicted. He's Mark's brother. Was there some sort of code against dating your ex-husband's brother? Probably. Did I care? Increasingly less. Jake, he never pushed. Never made me feel rushed or pressured. He was just there. Steady and kind and funny in a quiet way that snuck up on you. And then one night, as we were walking back to my car after seeing a movie downtown, he stopped under a streetlight and looked at me with such intensity that I felt my breath catch. "I've had feelings for you for a long time. Even before everything, I just never acted on it because you were with Marky. I would never do that to either of you, but now..." "Now?" "Oh, now I'd really like to kiss you if that's okay." It was more than okay. We kept our relationship quiet at first, not because we were ashamed of it, but simply because it felt private, sacred almost, like something I wanted to protect from the outside world's judgment and opinion. But small towns being what they are, word gets around and eventually it reached Mark. I was planting new shrubs in my front yard when Mark's truck pulled through my grass, knocking over a couple mailboxes. My heart sank as I watched him get out and stride up the walkway. His face was angry. Pearl, who had been lounging in a patch of sunlight nearby, darted under the porch at the sight of him. "Is it true? Are you seeing Jake?" I straightened up slowly, brushing dirt from my gardening gloves, and said, "Hello to you too, Mark." "Answer the question, Laurel." "Yes, Jake and I are seeing each other." "My brother? That's sick, Laurel, a real betrayal." I had to laugh at that, though there was no humor in it. I said, "You want to talk to me about betrayal after what you and Monica did to my life?" And he says that was different. She's my daughter. And I literally said word for word, "And how is your daughter, by the way?" "Still in the diversion program, still getting help, I hope." Mark's expression shifted, and I knew I hit a nerve. "She's doing better," he said, defensively. "The program's really helping her understand her issues." "Well, good for her. Now, if you don't mind, I'm busy here." "You can't just dismiss me like this. We were married for 5 years. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" "It meant everything to me," I said quietly, not looking at him in the eyes. "Until you chose to believe your thieving daughter over me. Until you made me question my own sanity rather than hold her accountable." "I make a mistake, you know, Laurel. People make mistakes." That's when I noticed it, a black ink smudge on Mark's forearm, partially visible beneath his rolled-up sleeve, and I squinted, trying to make out what it was as he, just looked at me wildly, continuing his tirade about forgiveness and second chances. And at this point, the neighbors are coming out to see why their mailbox is loose. I realized it was a tattoo on his arm, a new one. It appeared to be a username, specifically Monica's old eBay username, C_Jones 2002. He had tattooed his daughter's eBay scammer name on his body. As what? A show of solidarity? A misguided gesture of support, maybe? I couldn't even begin to fathom the thinking behind it. And in that moment, standing in my front yard with dirt under my fingernails and the scent of a new mulch in the air, I felt truly free from both of them. Mark with his little enabling tattoo, and Monica with her unrepentant thievery. Free of the gaslighting and betrayal and the constant sense that I was crazy one for expecting basic honesty and respect. "I think you should leave now, Mark, before my neighbors call the police." "This isn't over. Jake's making a huge mistake, and so are you." I just shrugged and went back to planting my shrubs. Pearl cautiously emerged from under the porch and wound herself around my ankles, purring. Mark was wrong. It was over. It's been over the moment he chose to defend Monica rather than face the truth. 1 year after I first noticed my grandmother's pearl earrings were missing, Jake took me to dinner at this beautiful restaurant overlooking the ocean in Wilmington. We had a table by the window, and the sunset was turning the water into sheets of molten gold. Jake seemed nervous all evening, fidgeting with his napkin and checking his pockets when he thought that I wasn't looking. I had a pretty good idea what was coming and found myself surprisingly calm about it. When he finally pulled out the small velvet box so similar to the one my grandmother's earrings had lived in, I already knew my answer. The ring inside was nothing like my first wedding ring. It was vintage, art, deco style with small sapphires around the center diamond. Unique and thoughtful and perfectly suited for me. "I'm not asking you to forget the past," Jake said, taking my hand from across the table, catching the eyes of everyone. "I'm asking if you'll let me be a part of your future." Later that night, I posted a photo of us at dinner on the gram, my hand with its new ring resting beside it, and you want to know the caption? It was simple. It said this: "Sometimes you have to lose the fake gems to find the real ones." Ooh, burn! My phone immediately starts blowing up with congratulatory messages from friends and coworkers. I turned it off, set it aside, and the opinions and reactions of others, especially Mark and his family, did not matter anymore. What mattered was that after months of pain and betrayal and questioning my own worth, I had finally found somebody who saw me clearly for who I was, who believed me without question, who would never gaslight me or make excuses for someone who had hurt me. I've learned that family isn't always who you're related to. Sometimes it's who proves they deserve your trust. Sometimes it's who stays when everyone else leaves. Sometimes it's just you and a rescue cat named Pearl, rebuilding your life one day at a time. And sometimes, if you're very, very lucky, it's the person who shows up with coffee before your early shift at the hospital just because they want to see you smile, even if it is your ex-husband's brother.
Well, that story was indeed messy. I hope you enjoyed it, and guys, I want to say before we hop into the problem comment, yesterday's video got almost 100 comments. Check this out right here. Thank you so much for that. Team Nora, by the way, and if you haven't checked out that video, it's pretty crazy. Check it out. But today, let's drop a comment down below and see if we can beat this number of comments from yesterday. Almost 100! Also, thank you for hitting that like button. It helps so much with the algorithm and pushes our videos onto other people. Thank you, guys. Let's check out this problem comment, which, by the way, OP replied to and was not happy. Let me know your thoughts on this one. This one comes from Davey Boy 55. Okay. Am I the only one seeing some major red flags in the story? You're painting yourself as the innocent victim, but let's be real. You moved into a grieving family with a teenage girl who lost her mom to cancer. And now you're sleeping with her uncle. Talk about messy. Yes, Monica was stealing your stuff and it's wrong. But instead of trying to understand why a 19-year-old teenager might be acting out hello trauma, you immediately go nuclear and end the marriage. Then you started dating your ex's brother, barely 3 weeks after the separation? That's colder than a refrigerator. The brother who conveniently always had feelings for you while you were married? Yeah, that's not suspicious at all. And that smug little caption on social media announcing your engagement. Sometimes you have to lose the fake gems to find the real ones? Come on. Way to twist the knife when a man is already down about his daughter going to jail. You did not just leave your hubby. You deliberately chose the one person that would hurt him the most, his own brother. I'm not defending theft, but there's clearly way more to this story than you're letting on. Some poor girl stole a few rings and sold it on eBay. Sounds like you couldn't handle being second place to his daughter, so you found a way to make yourself the victim. Then upgraded to the brother who puts you first. Ooh, coffee at 6 a.m. How romantic. He must be Romeo. This isn't a love story, it's revenge. Guys, that one was going straight at OP, but a lot of people agreed with some of those points. Anyways, here's the reply from Laurel. Listen, Davy boy, don't you just dare judge me when you have no idea what it's like to live in that house. I spent years trying to connect with Monica, buying her things, supporting her education, converting my workspace for her comfort. And my reward, was having my grandmother's irreplaceable heirloom sold to strangers on eBay? You think that I went nuclear? Well, Teddy chose to leave. He chose to defend a thief over his wife, and he chose to gaslight me until I questioned my own sanity. What was I supposed to do? Let her steal my wedding ring too? Wait until she emptied our bank account. And regardless, I didn't move on to anyone. We reconnected months later after, he left me. He was the only person who actually believed me when everyone else was making excuses for Monica's behavior. We didn't plan this, it just happened. I spent 5 years of my life trying to be a part of a family that ultimately chose to protect a thief rather than admit that she needed help. I'm not apologizing for finally finding happiness with someone who respects me. Next time, try having your most precious possession stolen by someone you trusted before passing judgment of how others recover from betrayal. Guys, I have to know your thoughts on that. But like I said, like yesterday's story, let's drop a comment down below. Today, are you Team Monica or are you Team Laurel? Come on, let's try to beat the 100 comments down below. Smash that like button, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, it's cool to be kind. See ya.